Welcome to Matdem Mat. Have you ever heard about this type of food in Korea? Do you know where this particular food comes from around the world? Join us in our journey as we uncover where these particular gourmets come from with our own and one and only Chef Matt in the studio. 안녕하세요.
안녕하세요. I am feeling very lonely today.
Are you?
No, not at all. I just, I don't know why I committed to that bit. I'm very, 내 마음이 엄청 찼어요. Like, I have a very full heart.
Oh, yeah? What's the reason for that?
I think it's because I just started working out. So, yeah, 저 지난주에 그 헬스를 드디어 끊었어요. I finally...
비키니 몸매를 이제 해야 되죠.
Yes. I'm a little behind, but you know what? For me, bikini season goes until like November. So.
Yeah, I think so. Have you ever been to Jeju in the fall?
I have. It's gorgeous.
It's bikini season.
Yeah.
저도 몇 년 전에 제주도 가을에 갔는데
네.
그래도 그 날씨에 수영할 수 있더라고요.
Right, as long as it's above like 26 or so?
Yeah, and I think the water, I don't know if this is fact or not, but I learned that it follows the previous season. So even in the fall, the water's temperature is still in the summer.
I buy that because it takes longer for the currents to cool down and to kind of catch up. I think with the air temperature, and I think with Jeju-do as well, right? Because 그 한반도에 like on the peninsula, like 태풍 season is kind of September, so I think you get a little less rain. I don't know if it's the case nowadays. It's been a while since I've been to Jeju-do, but I do remember there being more nice days in fall.
Yes, and less people too,
Absolutely.
since it's not the peak season. But in any case, if you're heading over in the fall, it's still bikini bod. So hopefully you guys are working out and hopefully creating quite the appetite for this week's episode.
That's right. This week's episode is quite dry. I'm not gonna lie. It's very informative. I will say that. We're talking about 계량 용어, like the words that we use to to describe like measurement.
어려워요.
Yeah, because it's such an important part of cooking.
Right.
Such an important part of food.
It's true. English is a wonderful language where it's very simple to count anything just as 1, 2, 3. I'll take 3 eggs. I'll take 3 homes. I'll take 3, I guess, pounds and things like that.
Oh, that's where it gets really tricky.
It does. Measurements is a big deal. But in any case, Korea takes it one step above. But let's take a look at our question of the day.
That's right. So when it comes to measuring, there are 2 styles. There's imperial and metric. But which 3 countries still officially use the imperial system of measurement?
여전히 공식적으로 영미 단위계를 사용하는 3 국가가 있는데요. 이 3 나라는 과연 어디일까요?
That's right. Have you ever come across this term, 영미 단위계?
I was just going to ask, or just let it go and pretend that I understood what imperial system of measurement is.
So that's pounds and miles and inches and feet.
Oh.
And so like I never realized the term because I was like 그냥 미국식, 영국식. I never realized I never thought to think of like what's the term for imperial system. Because I never really had to talk about the system itself.
Right.
Until today.
그래서 영미 단위계네요.
That's right. Yeah, so it gets really complicated. So this whole thing, the whole pounds versus kilograms, this goes back to the Roman era. Pounds and inches and feet are all basically leftover vestiges of how they used to measure things all the way back to the Romans.
Oh.
And they just kind of kept on building upon that. And it's kind of crazy to think about this. We've only had like a unified system of measuring things for about 200 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, about 200 years or so.
Fairly
Before
recent.
that, trying to figure out how much a thing weighs was pretty complicated and really important if you're trying to sell something.
Yeah.
I think back to like movies of like the Wild West and the Gold Rush. People trying to rip other people off by using fake scales and whatnot. Like, they had to worry about this sort of thing.
Yes, I
Now
bet.
we take it for granted how we know how far a kilometer is, how much something weighs.
I guess so. I mean, nowadays, even if we have 2 systems, 2 major systems, which is the imperial, 영미, and then the metric system, we have our smartphones to calculate
Also
it.
true, and I think that's a great thing to have. I think my teachers back in high school, we were some of the last generations to grow up in high school without smartphones, right?
Right.
And they'd always say, "You're never going to have your calculator wherever you go."
Yeah. Little did they
proved
know.
them wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
어디 가면은 뭐 계산기도 있고, we can look up anything you want.
Yeah. 근데 뭐 계산기 쓰는 사람도 별로 없잖아요. 근데 인터넷으로 찾는 게 더 빠르고.
That's right. 요새는 you can just speak to your phone. You can just add. You don't even have to press
type it
anything
in or
anymore.
anything. Yeah, that is true. So interesting to know that the imperial system comes from I guess the Roman emperor, and what do you call it? Era?
Yeah, so it started with the Romans, like with the ancient units of measure. Like a foot was actually a foot. Like someone 누구의 발에 그 길이, like that was the standard of a foot. And region by region, area by area, they all kind of had their own way of measuring things. And then slowly, they started to become more and more unified, but you didn't have like clear distinctions between the two. And even to this day, there is still a difference between, say, an American pint and a British pint. Those two things don't equal the same thing. Which is
같은 파인트긴 한데.
So here's the thing. So even though it's 영미 단위계, 영국, the British don't officially use the imperial system anymore. So that's not one of the three answers to our quiz.
Okay. Interesting.
They are officially on the metric system.
Oh, that's right. They write kilometers and meters.
But they still use the imperial system quite frequently when talking about distances, especially.
그래요? Miles?
They use miles. And they'll use stone, which is a unit of 20 pounds. So they talk about this in terms of someone's weight, right? Like, I weigh 9 stone now, which is 180 pounds.
Wow, 9 stones is 180 pounds?
Yeah, so that's 9 times 20, so it's 180 pounds, which is about like 78 kilograms? Like 77 kilograms.
Wow, I can't even do that quick math.
And so there's the British, the Australians, and the Canadians, the three biggest Commonwealth countries, kind of all mix and match between metric and imperial.
Isn't that more confusing than just choosing one?
So the thing is that they kind of look at it as almost a form of bilingualism.
맞아요.
Yeah, 약간 using both is like us using 콩글리시.
맞아요. Yeah, 다른 언어라고 칠 수도 있잖아요.
Right, because I think for some things, okay, so I a lot of people don't understand when I say this. So you know how there's 24 hours in a day? There's not 20 hours in a day because 24 is divisible by more things. You can break 24 down into more, it's dividable by 3, by 4, by 6, by 8. And in a way, that kind of applies to the imperial system. It's 12 inches to a foot.
Right.
28 grams to an ounce. So in a way, because you can divide it up a little bit more in more ways, sometimes it makes sense to talk about something being a quarter mile away.
Right.
There's something kind of intuitive about it not being in multiples of 10.
Right. Yeah, I don't know which is easier because some people will say, well, boiling point is just 100.
Right.
And then freezing point is 0. 뭐 셀시어스랑 파렌하이트의 차이점이 그거 또한 뭐 어떤 게 더 쉽고 어떤 게 더 어렵다라고 할 수 있는.
So one thing that people, especially when it comes to Fahrenheit, we'll talk about is that like because it goes from 0 to 100. Every range, like the 50s feel much more distinct from the 60s. The 60s feel distinct from the 70s, 80s, 90s, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas like we distinguish between 18 degrees and 23 degrees.
Right.
6 degrees versus 12 degrees.
Right.
And it doesn't quite have that same impact.
맞아요. 파렌하이트 미국에서 날씨를 이제 그런 정보를 받을 때 90도입니다. 그러면 와 너무 덥다. 근데 80도라고 하면 그래도 살만한 느낌도 들잖아요. 덥긴 덥지만 그래도 살만한 느낌. 근데 한국에서 30도. 더 엄청 덥긴 한데 33도. It's not that it's not a huge jump.
Right. And so it's actually kind of funny. Even when they advertise smartphones, on a commercial, when they'll turn to the weather app, they'll show the degrees as like 72 degrees because like for the same reason why when they display watches, they'll send it to 150 because it's subconsciously a smile. 72 degrees is for a lot of people will kind of be considered like perfect weather.
쾌적한 날씨.
맞아요. Like that kind of like perfect like 5월달, like that kind of like 22 degrees or so, 23 degrees.
Interesting. Yeah, it's in web design.
Right. But it's really complicated. And I think that I only feel this way because I grew up using the Imperial system. I know that people who only use the metric system think that the Imperial system is garbage.
I mean, it's for certain things, I think it may be easier. Actually, I don't know if I can give you like a perfect example. But then going back to like a pint in the US being different from a pint to the UK. For example, 피디님께서도 여쭤봤는데요. 맥주를 시킬 때 같은 파인트를 쓰잖아요.
맞아요.
Is it bigger or smaller?
So a British pint is bigger than an American pint.
Oh, it is bigger.
So there's what's known as a metric pint. So a metric pint is essentially half a liter.
Okay.
Whereas a imperial pint or an American pint is half a quart, which is roughly about a liter, but not quite a liter. We'll get into the breakdown a little bit later.
Yeah. 이것도 수학이 필요할 것 같아요.
So that's the thing, right? We're not just talking about language today. We're talking about language and math, and that's what makes it so difficult.
My goodness. Well, we'll learn a little bit more about it in just a bit. Once again, the question being, 여전히 공식적으로 영미 단위계를 사용하는 세 국가가 있다고 하는데요. 이 세 나라는 과연 어디일까요?
That's right. Which three countries still officially use the imperial system of measurement?
Well, let's get to it in just a bit. In the meantime, here's a 가수, a singer, that goes by the Imperial? Is this Imperial system? I'm getting confused. Vanessa Carlton, 1,000 Miles. Vanessa Carlton with 1,000 Miles. Miles도 역시나 Imperial system, 영미 단위계이죠. In any case, 여전히 공식적으로 영미 단위계를 사용하는 세 개 국가가 있다고 하는데요. 이 세 나라는 과연 어디일까요?
That's right. Which three countries still officially use the imperial system of measurement?
So one would have to be 미국이 아닐까요? 미국 and any other countries affiliated to 미국, so like Guam and Saipan. And the US, done. Yeah, it's interesting because were we talking about it when the song was on air? You said that they still base it off of the metric system.
So since 1959, technically the United States has been on the metric system, but they use the metric system to define their imperial system. So officially they don't use centimeters and meters like people do. Like if you're working in any industry that requires precision, you will use metric. If you're a scientist, you will use metric.
맞아요.
If you're in manufacturing, you'll use metric. But officially, they use metric to define an inch as 2.54 millimeters.
2.54.
Imagine basing your system of measurement off of base 2.54.
Okay, so 미국도 이제 영미 단위계를 쓰긴 하지만 그 표준이라고 해야 되나요? The standard, the 기준 is still based on the metric system.
Still based on the
where
metric
everything
system.
is converted from metric system to the imperial.
Right. So we have one of the three countries, America, but it's the other two. And if you don't know, you're not going to know.
Yeah.
Anyone who answers into this one, we know they just looked it up.
그런가요? Let us know. 여러분들 아시겠다 싶으신 분들은 샵 1013을 문자 보내주시길 바랍니다. Maybe it's Italy. Is it Italy? Because it's started from Rome?
Oh, interesting. That's an interesting theory. It's a wrong one. But
yeah.
So, okay, it is America, but not Italy. So that's all we'll give you.
Well, let's get to it. I mean, just taking a look at these numbers here gives me a headache.
맞아요. Okay, 만약 이거를, if you want to convert from inches, feet, yards, miles, so 1인치는 2.54cm. But generally, you can just break it down to 2.5.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you're trying to measure something exactly, if you're kind of just trying to get a feel for something, 2.5.
Okay.
1 foot, roughly 30 centimeters.
Okay.
It's 30.48, but again, we just kind of say like 30. And so like and I think this is kind of the easiest one to remember if you kind of think of shoe sizes.
Oh.
So a size 12 is a size 300 in Korean.
아, 그런 거였어요?
Yes.
I had no idea.
But this only works for men's shoe sizes because women's shoe sizes it doesn't. It's a complete mess.
아, 그래요?
So
그것도 다른가요?
women's shoe sizes work on a different scale.
I was going to
Unfortunately, in the
say,
United States.
I mean, 8, I'm usually a size 8, 7.5 and 8. It would go, 그러네요.
Yeah,
30으로
so
하면
7.5 is a men's 6, which means it's a mess.
그러네요. 복잡하네요.
1 yard is 90 centimeters, but generally 1대1로 많이 봐요. 1 yard to 1 meter.
Right.
Yeah.
3 feet.
Yeah, so unless if you're, again, measuring something exactly, when you're talking about distance, how far is it? It's about 10 yards that way. It's about 10 meters that way.
Okay.
1 mile is 1.6 kilometers. This one is a hard one to wrap your head around.
이게 제일 헷갈릴 때 언제인 줄 알아요?
네.
When you go traveling abroad
맞아요.
and then you use a different map. 이제 한국의 K 노란 색깔 지도를 쓰잖아요. Or T or N
Sure.
쓰는데 이게 다 킬로미터, 미터를 쓰잖아요. 근데 해외로 나가면 미국으로 나가면 then it's all of a sudden feet and miles.
Feet and miles.
And 미국 사람이긴 하지만 너무 익숙해졌어요. 12년 동안. 그래가지고 500 feet 어떻게 되지? 언제 나가야 되지? 언제 출구해야지?
Sure.
It's such like an exhilarating experience.
And it's kind of tricky because with this one, you can't really round it down to 1.5. Because when you're talking miles, you're generally talking about many miles. So by the time you're kind of converting, 200 miles,
Right.
you're missing 20 whole
It's a little
kilometers.
bit different. Yeah, that's true. What about weight then?
Weight also is not any easier. 1 ounce. So this is one I feel like non-Americans are the most puzzled by. What is an ounce?
맞아요. 이제 이게 또 헷갈리는 게 if you want to cook 요리할 때
맞아요.
쿡북 레시피 같은 걸 보면은 아운스 몇 gram인지 찾아봐야 되잖아요.
그래서 that's what makes it so complicated is because it's most often used in cooking. And so when you read an American recipe, oftentimes they'll break things down by the ounce. 1/4 ounce, 1/2 ounce, because an ounce is 1/2 pound. An ounce is 28.5 grams.
Wow.
which is a very weird amount to think about something. It's not 25 grams. It's not 50 grams. It's 28 grams. 되게 애매하잖아요.
그러니까요. I mean, I guess 그냥 대충 이 정도, just eyeballing it is probably the best way to cook. But in baking, you have to get it like down to the gram, basically.
Sure. So 1 pound is 0.54 kilograms. It's a little easier to remember it the other way around. 1 kilogram is 2.2 pounds.
Oh, okay. 그러네,
So
진짜
when you're thinking about weight, 대충 한 2 아니 2.5로 나누기 하면은 then you can kind of figure it out between pounds and kilograms.
It actually doesn't matter what I'm used to. gram이든 ounce이든 tablespoon이든 teaspoon이든 I still have to look it up. Because I have teaspoons and I have like milliliters
Sure.
as well. I still have to look it up and see based on what tools I have in my house.
그러면 you would have liked the system that we had at our kitchen in our restaurant. So a lot of the times, 특히 소금, 약간 간을 조절할 때 when you're kind of adjusting the seasoning. Sometimes you'll use a little bit more, a little bit less, depending on the vegetables or the meat that they're using. So we had the system: 1 finger pinch, 2 finger pinch, 3 finger pinch, 4 finger pinch. If you just pinch with 2 fingers, you can only grab a little bit, right?
그러네요.
Grab a little bit more with 2 fingers. Grab a little bit more with 3.
이거 좋네요.
Yeah.
다 알아들 수 있잖아요.
맞아요.
You don't need some tools, just in your fingers. 근데 또 손가락 크기에 따라 두고 더 다를 수 있기
Right, so
때문에.
this is why it's a literal manifestation of 손맛.
그러네요. Yeah. Well, in any case, our question being 여전히 공식적으로 영미 단위계를 사용하는 3개국이 있습니다. 이 세 나라는 과연 어디일까요?
That's right. Which 3 countries still officially use the Imperial system of measurement?
Drum roll, please.
The United States, Myanmar, and Liberia.
Myanmar and Liberia? When year?
I think this just goes to show how uncommon the imperial system is, and maybe we should just all get on that.
Yeah, maybe just goes to show that we should just karata to the majority. Well, in any case, congrats to those who got it right, and kudos to those who actually wanted to look it up as well. In any case, we heard a song from the Imperial. Now we got to head back to the metric system. Here is 10cm with Gradation. Places or food come around all around the world. What am I saying? Have you seen where these food comes from? Join us in our journey as we uncover where these interesting gourmets are from around the world. Today, we're not necessarily talking about food, but how we get food to the table is all about measurements. We're getting a message here. 3817님. 그런데 파운드를 왜 LB라고 표기하나요? 대문자 L인가요? 대문자 I인가요? 소문자 L인가요?
네.
이것도 헷갈려요.
So it's this 소문자 L, and it comes from the Latin word for scale, Libra. So Libra. So that's where the zodiac sign Libra also comes from, because Libra is a scale. Yeah.
Wow, 몰랐네요. I was going to look it up.
Actually, you know what? That's off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure that's correct.
한번 찾아봐야겠네요.
Someone fact checked me, but I'm 99% sure that's correct.
Interesting. Yeah, but again, two different types of systems that we work with in the world. Imperial, only 3 countries. Again, the U.S., Myanmar, and Liberia. And then the rest of the world uses the metric.
That's right. So we have 2 official systems, but we also have infinite unofficial systems
그렇겠죠.
all over the world. In Korea, we have many, many unofficial types of measuring things. But before that, I've got another question for you.
Let's go.
Talking about distances and talking about Korea. So, I want to ask you, which country is on the exact opposite side of the earth from Korea?
한국과 지구 정확하게 반대편에 있는 나라는 과연 어디일까요?
혹시 그 밈 봤어요? The one where someone in Korea put down a slice of bread on the ground, and the person from this other country put another slice of bread on the ground, and they said they're making an earth sandwich. 지구 샌드위치 만든다고 했어요.
No.
Yeah. So this was a pretty famous meme made by someone in Korea and someone from this other country.
That's fun. I'm going to guess South America. Just because, I mean, we got to know the equator.
Sure.
It's going to be southern hemisphere. And I'm just going to guess Chile?
That's a guess.
Is it a guess?
That is a guess.
Okay. Who knows? I just met someone from Chile as well.
Uh-huh.
And they were just saying, it's basically like the opposite side.
Yeah, basically.
Traveled like 24 hours to get here. And I'm like, oh, wow.
That's true. There aren't that many direct flights to South America. That's for sure.
Well, in any case, 한국과 지구 정확하게 반대편에 있는 나라는 과연 어디일까요? 아시겠다 싶으신 분들은 샵 1013 단문 50원 장문 100원 보내주시길 바랍니다. All right, well, let's get to these unofficial, yet very official measurements.
That's right. In some ways, these are more official than the actual official measurements because they're the ones that we really use every day.
And they're the ones that you use in your kitchen, too.
Absolutely. So the first one I want to talk about is 한 주먹.
한 주먹.
This is something that we use quite often for many things. Just something that's roughly the size of your fist.
Right.
Yeah. And according to this one definition I found, a female adult's fist.
Okay.
Not a giant, not a giant ham fist from a big dude.
Right.
Not a small child's fist. And
average.
Somewhere in the middle is a adult woman's fist.
Okay.
And so if we're talking about meat, this is roughly about 100 grams.
Okay, but also 주먹을 얼만큼 꽉 짚느냐에 따라도 다를 수 있잖아요.
Oh no! So it's the size of the fist, not how much you hold in a fist.
Oh, okay. Excuse me. Oh, see how you interpret things so differently.
That's right. Yeah. So but if you kind of go like this and
a fistful.
So not a fistful, a fist's worth.
Fist worth.
Oh yeah. That's a confusing distinction. A fist's worth.
Okay.
Yeah, that's 한 100g 정도.
100g. Okay, not bad. 이게 1인분보다 적죠.
Sure.
So what is 1인분?
1인분 is about like 100, like it kind of ranges, but it's between 150 to 200 gram like range. If you're talking about like a 고깃집, like
Right,
1인분,
right.
it's not set in stone.
어떤 가게는 130이래요.
Right.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you have to look at the small print, but somewhere between like 150 to 200, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less in some places.
Yeah.
But like,
주먹.
most of the times 1인분 isn't really 1인분 anyway, right?
That's true.
그것보다 더 많이 먹잖아요.
맞아요.
Sticking with the hands, 한 꼬집, a pinch, something that we use in the this is pretty universal.
Yeah.
한 꼬집, it's about 2 grams.
Oh, okay.
A little bit. I don't know. Actually, I'm looking at this definition right now. 약 2g 정도이면. But it doesn't say 2 grams of what?
2 grams. That's true. 2 grams of. I mean, yeah.
2 grams of
what?
gold is very different from 2 grams of feathers.
그러네요. Is it? Or is it 똑같은 gram?
But the
right.
volume,
The
the
꼬집,
yeah,
that's true.
the volume.
That's
is
true.
different.
But it's interesting. 여기서도 약간이라고 표현하기도 합니다.
Right. Because it's just a pinch. How much?
약간.
Yeah, just a pinch.
Yeah, okay. Just a pinch.
신 거예요? 아니요. 그냥 한 꼬집만 넣으면 돼요.
그렇죠. 2 꼬집은 약간보다 더
Sure.
거죠. Okay.
And then you have 한 줌.
I don't know what this is. What is 줌?
Well, I have the definition right here if you want to read it out for our audience.
한 손 가득 넘치게 쥐어진 정도 예시 멸치 한 줌 equals 국물치인 경우 12에서 15마리 나물 한 줌은 50g. 그래서 크게 1줌은 한 2줌? 1줌의 2배라고 하네요.
Yeah, 2줌 is roughly about twice as 1줌.
Okay, one big jum is around.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
2 small jums.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay. What is jum though?
So 줌 is like about like how much kind of like you can fit in your hand, like but kind of goes above like how much you can fit in a hand.
Oh, okay.
It's like it's a this.
A 퍼 like you're cupping something.
It's like it's a this.
it's a this.
We don't have a term for this in English. Yeah.
보이는 라디오에서만 설명드릴 수 있습니다.
Right, a little like a heaping palms full.
Okay.
Which is not a term we use in English.
Yeah,
heaping palms full.
I mean, I think a lot of times we cook with our hands, especially if we are making like kimchi, for example.
Right, kimchi, or yeah, exactly. Like when you're putting the sok inside. So you kind of grab it by the handful.
Right. Cup it up. 그게
And then like
한 줌이네요.
쌀 씻을 때도.
맞아요.
So yeah, it's that act, and I guess we don't really use that act in Western cooking quite as much.
Sure,
maybe. Yeah,
sure.
yeah, a heaping palms full.
Maybe a ladle. 마늘 한 톨.
right.
여기서부터 조금 음식마다, 재료마다 다 다르잖아요.
Yes, and so this is what we'd say a clove of garlic is
Right.
in the United States.
That's right. English has it too.
Yep.
1 clove of
A clove of
garlic이면
garlic.
그 깐 마늘인가요? 아니면 한 통?
Generally, yes, talking about like 깐 마늘.
깐 마늘. Okay.
한쪽. And then you have 생강 한쪽.
한쪽. Yeah.
A knob of ginger. And this one is tricky because, as we all know, they all come in different shapes and sizes.
Right.
But we all kind of know what a knob is, right?
Right.
It's like about the size of your thumb.
Okay.
Like,
yeah.
like a piece about the size of your thumb.
doorknob 할 때 그 knob이죠.
Same spelling. And I guess, yeah, because knob being like something you kind of like, kind of grab, like,
It
like
sticks
doorknob,
out.
yeah, it kind of sticks out. Kind of like
Different
protruding.
shapes, different sizes.
Yeah, we better stop before we get into trouble. And then we have 고기 한 근.
고기 한 근이죠. Yeah.
600g. 채소 한 근. About 400g. So
이거
like,
달라요?
so this is something like kind of like what you see like a 시장, right? Like how they would like bundle up and package, right? Like this is like roughly how much would come in these 근. Again, it can vary from vegetable to vegetable, from meat to meat, from shop to shop, but it generally is in this range.
Are there any places that still like strictly go by this? Like as a restaurant owner, or as a buyer, do you buy?
Yeah, like for example, right? Like things like I don't know why this is one off the top of my head, but like 고수. Like when you buy cilantro, right? Like you don't buy like a specific weight because like one bunch of cilantro is like even if it's a couple grams off here and there, by and large, there's no real difference between one or the other.
Right, right.
So like leafy greens, and for example,
그러네요,
right?
okay.
Like it's much easier to just kind of deal with it by the bunch
그러네요.
rather than
The bundle.
exact weight.
Yeah.
Because you're never going to ask, like, give me 32 grams of lettuce.
한 근이면 뭐 두 근이든 세 근이라고 해야 되나요? How would you count that as well? But in any case, 고기 for 고기 would be 600 grams. 채소 for vegetables, 400 grams.
Right, and then 채소, then and we made was it and then when you talk about 봉지, like kind of when you get it from the supermarket, generally is about like 200-gram packages of 채소.
Yeah, 여러분 이거 아시나요? I wonder if our Korean listeners also can get these right as well.
I think they'll know it when they see it.
Sure.
Yeah, I think I didn't really know the exact gram amounts either myself. It's just again a kind of a thing that you experience by shopping and by seeing these like amounts. Yeah, I don't know. Like if I didn't have these numbers in front of my face, I don't know if I could tell you exactly how many grams it is. But if you showed me a lineup of 3 different amounts, like 이만큼은 좀 한 근이네.
그쵸. Okay. Well, we're talking about counting, measuring foods, ingredients, all that kind of jazz. So let us know if you guys have the answers to our question. 한국과 지구 정확하게 반대편에 있는 나라는 과연 어디일까요?
That's right. Which country is on the exact opposite side of the earth from Korea?
Let us know if you have your answers. Once again, 샵 1013으로 보내주시길 바랍니다. We love you guys with a quick song. Ricky Martin. 이 컵에는 얼마나 들어가려나 궁금한데요. It's the cup of life. The one and only Ricky Martin.
So good.
So good. 아, 좋습니다. Speaking of muy caliente, we have an interesting topic. Okay, once again, we're talking about measurements, so to say. And, it's very different how you measure things around the world, but also our taste when it comes to one pinch, one handful, and all those things. But in any case, our question being, 한국과 지구 정확하게 반대편에 있는 나라는 과연 어디일까요?
That's right. Which country is on the exact opposite side of the earth from Korea?
Interesting. I wonder if they have things in common, being so opposite, but sometimes having things in common.
Yeah, in the way that like two, it could be two sides of the same coin.
Right. Yeah.
I guess we'll find out.
We shall indeed. All right. Speaking of different measurements.
That's right. Did you know that there is a way 그 매운맛을 계량할 수 있는 방법이 있습니다. There is a way to measure the spiciness of a certain food.
얼만큼 콧물이 나오는지.
Actually, you know what? That makes more sense than the actual way to do it. It's known as Scoville heat units or 스코빌 지수.
Right, 들어봤어요.
So it's interesting, right? So it's kind of tricky to measure how 매워 something is, how spicy something is. So it was actually a scale developed in 1912, so it's been around for quite a while.
Oh, wow.
But, so here's the thing. It kind of 그런 대충 그 감이 올 수 있지만 you can kind of get like a general feeling about how something spicy something is. But the way it's measured is that it's measured by getting the dried pepper, dissolving it in an alcohol, and then you give it to taste testers, and you dissolve that solution as much as you can. And by the time the testers claim that they can't feel anything, that's the scale. So
once you eat it, it's spicy until you can't feel it at all?
Until you can't feel it anymore. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Right.
매운맛을 먹을 때 얼만큼 시간이 가야 아무 느낌이 없는지에 따라서 그 기준으로?
Yeah. So you keep diluting it, and then you do it in multiples of 100. And so it's kind of a tricky thing.
That is tricky.
Yeah, to kind of like, it's good for just measuring pure peppers, but when we're talking about food, it gets a little bit harder. But to give you a feeling for what this is, so 영은 피망입니다. So 피망은 아예 매운맛이 없잖아요. So
0.
Yeah, bell peppers or paprika, depending on where in the world you're from, have no heat to them. So those are 0.
Okay.
2,500 to 10,000 is jalapeno.
Wow, that's a big jump.
Yeah, so I think you've experienced how one pepper can be much spicier than another pepper.
맞아요.
특히 like we're talking about something like 꽈리고추, right? Sometimes you'll get ones that are really hot, sometimes
That's true.
less.
That's true.
And then 100,000 to 350,000 habanero.
Wow.
2 million is Carolina Reaper, which is officially the spiciest pepper in the world. So you're going from 2,000 to 2 million.
Wow. It's interesting. I've seen people do like YouTube 챌린지 같은 거를 봤는데
봤죠. 예.
that is like 병원 실려가고 난리 나요.
There are some people that will hallucinate because they're in so much pain.
Tears, all forms of liquid coming out of the body.
So some of the spiciest food cultures in the world, you have Indonesia. You have countries like Bhutan. China also makes a lot of these lists. There's no real way to measure how spicy cuisine is. But if you look at a lot of lists, there generally tends to be a consensus.
그쵸.
And those three countries come out. And of course, Korea tends to come out on a lot of these lists as well. So 우리나라에서 일단 the foods that we've measured in Korea on Scoville Heat Unit, 청양고추 is 4,000 to 7,000.
Oh, okay.
So the most mild 청양고추 is more spicy than a mild jalapeno. But the spiciest are not as spicy as the spiciest jalapenos. Sramen, so like the most popular brand, let's call it,
제일
is
맛있죠?
2,700.
Wow! Not bash이네요.
It's not bad, but you have to keep in mind, you're eating more than just a bite of it at a time. It's a whole bowl full that you're having.
Yeah, that is true. And it's 뜨거워. 뜨거워서 조금 더 다르게 느낄 수 있을 것 같아요.
That's right. Let's talk about, I guess we can call it the regular fire chicken noodles.
Fire chicken noodles.
Fire chicken noodles, 4,400.
Oh, 이것도 not bash이네요. I don't know why I think it's like much hotter.
Because this one, 이거는 국물이 없잖아요. So there's no water there. And remember, the Scoville heat unit is determined by it being dissolved in a solution.
Oh, right. Makes sense.
The nuclear versions of this one are 8,600. So again, like imagine it's about the middle range of a jalapeno.
그러네요, 진짜.
But it's a big bowl of it.
Yeah, and it's 이런 거는 먹으면 먹을수록 혀가 불타오르잖아요.
Like spiciness, it builds up.
Yeah, it really does. But 이것도 it just goes to show 온도처럼 실 온도가 있고 체감 온도가 있는 것처럼 there's like the Scoville heat, but then like how you actually feel about eating these foods so different.
오늘 같은 날이면은 like today is what 28 degrees, 29 degrees. It feels like 32 with the 습기 and everything. And when 햇빛도 쨍쨍하고 like it feels a lot hotter.
But
and
then
that's the same thing.
살짝 바람이 불면 한 26도까지 내려가기도 해요.
That would be like adding a slice of cheese.
우유. Yeah. Yeah. Well, in any case, lots to talk about. We didn't even, what do you call it? Scrape the, who knows? We didn't even, English. There's a lot more to
We
cover.
only got a little bit of a sizzle.
There you go. All right. Well, in any case, our question being 한국과 지구 정확히 반대편에 있는 나라는 과연 어디일까요?
That's right. Which country is on the exact opposite side of the earth from Korea?
Drum roll, please.
우루과이입니다.
Oh.
You were very close. I was pretty shocked.
Oh, yeah?
Because apparently you're not great at weights, but you're good at you're good at distances.
Good geography.
So the meme was some guy in Kunpo put a slice of bread down, and apparently that's on the exact opposite side of the earth as the capital of Uruguay, Montevideo.
Oh, interesting.
That was the meme.
People have a lot of time on their hands just to figure that kind of stuff out.
But you know what? It's brings us all a little bit closer together.
It certainly does. Well, in any case, you brought us a lot closer. Once again, Chef Matt, thank you once again. We'll have to see you again next week.
See you then.
We'll leave you guys with our very last song. But before you do, a quick weather update.